16-year-old Tyler had always been the kid who could fix anything with a computer. While other kids his age were playing video games or hanging out at the mall, Tyler was busy learning about networks, security systems, and how to make computers talk to each other. His friends thought he was a bit weird, but Tyler didn't mind. There was something exciting about understanding how the digital world worked, especially when most people just saw it as magic. His father, Robert, was the CEO of a company called TechGuard Solutions. They helped big businesses keep their computer systems safe from hackers and cyber criminals. Robert had built the company from nothing over the past 15 years, and now they had offices in 3 cities and over 200 employees. The Andy company was Robert's pride and joy, and he often brought Tyler to the office on weekends to show him around. That Saturday morning started like any other. Tyler had finished his homework early and was looking for something to do. His mom, Linda, was at her book club, and his dad was catching up on paperwork in his home office. Tyler wandered into the room where his dad kept some of the company's backup servers and testing equipment. "Hey, Dad, mind if I help with something?" Tyler asked, poking his head into the office. Robert looked up from his papers and smiled. "Sure, son. Actually, I've been meaning to update the software on those servers over there. Think you can handle it?" Tyler's eyes lit up. He loved when his dad trusted him with real work instead of just watching from the sidelines. "Absolutely. Just the regular security patches?" "Yeah. Nothing too complicated. Just make sure everything's running the latest versions. You know the drill." Tyler cracked his knuckles and got to work. He'd done this kind of maintenance dozens of times before. It was pretty routine stuff. Download the updates, install them, restart the systems, and make sure everything came back online properly. But Tyler had learned that it was always smart to check the system logs first, just to make sure there weren't any weird errors or problems that might cause issues during the update. He pulled up the log files and started scrolling through them. Most of it was boring technical stuff. Routine processes starting and stopping, users logging in and out, files being accessed. But then something caught his eye. There were login attempts at strange hours, like 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., when nobody should have been accessing the system. Tyler frowned and dug deeper. The login attempts weren't random. They were systematic and persistent. Someone was trying different usernames and passwords, but they were doing it slowly and carefully, probably trying to avoid triggering the automatic security alerts that would normally catch this kind of activity. "That's weird," Tyler muttered to himself. He opened up another set of logs to cross-reference the suspicious activity. What he found made his stomach drop. The login attempts weren't just attempts. Some of them had been successful. Someone had actually gotten into the system, using valid credentials. But these weren't credentials for current employees. Tyler recognized some of the usernames. They belonged to people who had left the company months ago. Tyler's hand started moving faster across the keyboard. He opened up the network traffic logs to see what these mystery users had been doing once they got inside the system. What he discovered was like finding a hidden door in his own house that he never knew existed. The unauthorized users hadn't just logged in, they'd been systematically copying files. Lots of files, client contracts, financial records, employee information, and worst of all, the detailed security protocols that TechGuard used to protect other companies. It was like someone had been quietly robbing a bank for months, taking a little bit each time so nobody would notice. Tyler's heart was racing now. He pulled up more detailed reports and realized the scope of what he was looking at. This wasn't just a few random files being stolen. This was organized, professional, and it had been going on for at least 4 months. The hackers had been incredibly careful, never taking too much at once, and they'd been covering their tracks by altering the logs to hide their activity. But they'd made one mistake. They hadn't counted on someone like Tyler doing a deep dive into the system logs. Most people would have just looked at the summary reports, which showed everything was normal. Tyler had looked deeper, and that's where the real story was hiding. He started tracing the network connections to see where the stolen data was being sent. The trail led through several proxy servers and encrypted connections, but Tyler was patient and methodical. He followed each hop in the network path, documenting everything he found. After 2 hours of investigation, Tyler had built a complete picture of the breach. The hackers had gained access using old employee accounts that should have been deactivated when those employees left the company. They'd been using those accounts to slowly extract sensitive information from multiple clients. Even worse, they'd planted false evidence in the system that made it look like his father had authorized the data transfers. Tyler sat back in his chair, staring at the screen in disbelief. This wasn't just a security breach. It was a setup. Someone was trying to make his dad look like he was stealing from his own clients. The planted evidence was sophisticated and would be very difficult to prove was fake. If this information came to light without the proper context, his father could face criminal charges. Tyler's mind raced through the implications. TechGuard Solutions would lose all of its clients if word got out that their systems had been compromised. Worse, if the planted evidence was discovered, his father could go to prison for corporate espionage and theft. Their whole family could lose everything they'd worked for. But who would do something like this? Tyler looked at the timing of the attacks and the sophistication of the methods used. This wasn't the work of random hackers or foreign criminals. This was someone with inside knowledge of TechGuard systems and procedures, someone who knew exactly which files would be most damaging and how to make it look like an inside job. Tyler printed out the most important evidence and saved copies of everything to a secure drive. He double-checked his work, making sure he hadn't missed anything important. The evidence was solid, but he knew his dad would have a hard time believing it. After all, TechGuard had a whole team of security professionals who were supposed to catch exactly this kind of thing. As Tyler prepared to go tell his father what he'd discovered, he realized that this was probably the most important moment of his young life. The information he'd uncovered could save his family's business and his father's reputation, but it would also expose a conspiracy that went much deeper than a simple security breach. He took a deep breath and headed toward his father's office, carrying the printed evidence and trying to figure out how to explain that their entire world was about to change. Tyler knew that once he shared this information, there would be no going back. The quiet Saturday afternoon was about to become the beginning of the most dangerous situation their family had ever faced. Walking down the hallway, Tyler couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching him. He glanced around nervously, but the house was quiet except for the sound of his father typing in the office. Still, the feeling persisted, and Tyler quickened his pace. He needed to get this information to his dad immediately, before whoever was behind this realized their careful plan had been discovered. Tyler's hands were shaking as he walked toward his father's office. The printed evidence felt heavy in his hands, like it weighed 1,000 pounds instead of just a few sheets of paper. He kept thinking about what he'd discovered. The months of stolen data, the planted evidence, the careful planning that had gone into framing his dad. This wasn't just some random computer problem that could be fixed with a software update. This was someone trying to destroy his family. He paused outside his father's office door, hearing Robert's voice through the wood. His dad was on a conference call, and Tyler could hear other voices coming through the speaker. It sounded like an important meeting with investors or clients. Tyler knew he should wait, but something inside him said this couldn't wait. Every minute they delayed gave the hackers more time to cover their tracks or make their next move. Tyler knocked softly on the door. "Dad, I need to talk to you about something important." "Just a minute, Tyler," Robert's voice called back. "I'm in the middle of a call with the investors for our new security division. Can it wait about 20 minutes? Tyler's stomach dropped. The new security division, the very thing that made TechGuard so valuable to potential investors, was about to become their biggest nightmare. If these investors found out that TechGuard's own systems had been compromised for months, they'd run away faster than Tyler could. Explain what happened. "Dad, this really can't wait. It's about the company's security system." There was a pause. Then Tyler heard his father apologizing to the people on the call. "Gentlemen, I'm sorry, but I need to take a quick break. My son says there's an urgent security matter that needs my attention." The door opened and Robert stood there looking slightly annoyed but also concerned. Behind him, Tyler could see his father's laptop screen showing a video conference with 4 men in business suits. They looked important and impatient. "Tyler, what's so urgent that it couldn't wait 20 minutes? These investors are considering putting $5 million into our company." Tyler took a deep breath. "Dad, the system's been breached. Our security has been completely compromised for months." The room went dead silent. Robert's face went from annoyed to confused to alarmed in the space of about 3 seconds. The investors on the screen were leaning forward, trying to hear what was being said. "What did you just say?" Robert asked quietly. "I said our system has been breached. Someone's been stealing client data for at least 4 months, and they've planted evidence to make it look like you authorized it." One of the investors on the screen spoke up. "Excuse me, Robert, but did we just hear something about a security breach?" Robert looked back and forth between Tyler and the computer screen, clearly torn between wanting to continue the meeting and needing to understand what his son was telling him. "Gentlemen, I apologize, but I think we need to postpone this call. There seems to be some kind of technical issue that requires my immediate attention." "Technical issue?" another investor asked. "It sounded like your son just said your security system has been compromised. That's not exactly a minor technical issue for a cybersecurity company." Tyler could see his father's face turning red. The embarrassment of having a business meeting interrupted by his teenage son was bad enough, but having it interrupted with news of a massive security failure was a disaster. Tyler felt terrible for putting his dad in this position, but he also knew that waiting would only make things worse. "Tyler," Robert said through gritted teeth, "are you absolutely certain about what you're saying? Because if you're wrong about this, we just lost a $5 million investment." Tyler held up the printed evidence. "Dad, I've been going through the system logs all morning. Look at this data. Someone has been using old employee accounts to access our servers. They've stolen client files, financial records, everything. And they've made it look like you gave them permission to do it." Robert took the papers from Tyler's hands and started reading. As his eyes moved down the page, his expression changed from anger to shock to something that looked like fear. The investors on the screen were getting restless, whispering among themselves. "Robert," one of them said, "we need to know what's going on here. Are you telling us that TechGuard Solutions has suffered a data breach?" Robert looked up from the papers, his face pale. I need to investigate this immediately." "Tyler, explain to me exactly what you found." Tyler moved closer to his father's desk, painfully aware that 4 potential investors were watching and listening to every word. "I was updating the servers like you asked, but first I checked the system logs. There were login attempts at weird hours using accounts that should have been deactivated months ago. When I dug deeper, I found that someone had been systematically copying our client files and sending them to external servers." One of the investors interrupted. "How long has this been going on?" Tyler looked at his dad, who nodded for him to continue. "Based on the logs, at least 4 months, maybe longer. They were very careful about it, taking small amounts of data at a time so it wouldn't trigger our automatic alerts. But the worst part is that they've planted false evidence in the system that makes it look like Dad authorized all the data transfers." The silence that followed was deafening. Tyler could hear his own heartbeat and the quiet hum of the computer fans. The investors on the screen were staring at each other with expressions that clearly said they wanted to end this call immediately. Finally, one of the investors spoke up. "Robert, I think we need to postpone our discussions indefinitely. This is obviously a matter that requires your full attention, and frankly, it raises serious questions about the security of your operations." Another investor added, "We'll need to see a full forensic report from an independent security firm before we can consider moving forward with any investment." Robert nodded slowly, looking like he'd aged 10 years in the past 5 minutes. "I understand completely, gentlemen. I'll have our security team begin a full investigation immediately, and I'll keep you informed of our findings." "Actually," the first investor said, "given the nature of this breach, we'd prefer that you use an external security firm for the investigation. No offense, but if your own systems have been compromised for months without your knowledge, we can't trust your internal team to properly assess the situation." After the investors ended the call, Robert slumped back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. Tyler stood there feeling awful about what had just happened. but also knowing that he'd done the right thing. "Dad, I'm sorry about the timing, but I couldn't wait. Look at this evidence I found." Tyler pointed to specific parts of the printed logs. Someone with inside knowledge set this up. They knew exactly which accounts to use and how to avoid detection. This isn't some random hacker group. This is someone who knows our systems inside and out. Robert studied the evidence more carefully, his business mind starting to work through the implications. "Tyler, if what you're showing me is accurate, then we're not just dealing with a data breach, we're dealing with corporate espionage and an attempt to frame me for it." Tyler nodded. "The planted evidence is really sophisticated, Dad. If someone found it without seeing the real logs, it would be almost impossible to prove it was fake. Someone wanted to make sure that when this came to light, you'd take the fall for it." Robert stood up and started pacing around his office. "We need to figure out who had access to create these fake employee accounts and who would benefit from destroying TechGuard's reputation. Tyler, I need you to copy all of this evidence to a secure drive and then help me figure out our next move. Because if someone is trying to frame me, they're not going to stop here." The drive home that evening was unlike any other in Tyler's 16 years of life. His mother, Linda, sat in the passenger seat, her face pale and worried after Robert had quickly explained the situation. The family's comfortable SUV felt cramped and tense as they made their way through the city traffic. Robert's phone hadn't stopped buzzing since they left the office, and with each notification, Tyler could see his father's jaw clench a little tighter. "Honey, maybe you should turn the phone off for a few minutes," Linda suggested gently. "Just until we get home and can think clearly about this." Robert shook his head, his knuckles white as he gripped the steering wheel. "I can't. The board members are calling, our biggest clients are asking questions, and our legal team needs answers I don't have yet." He glanced at Tyler in the rearview mirror. "Son, I need you to walk me through exactly what you found one more time. Every detail. Could be important." Tyler opened his laptop, grateful that he'd saved everything to multiple drives. The hackers used employee accounts that belonged to people who left the company months ago. But here's the weird part. These accounts were never properly deactivated. Someone with administrative access would have had to deliberately leave them active. Linda turned around to look at her son. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means this wasn't just some outside hacker getting lucky," Tyler explained. "Someone inside the company either helped them or is actually behind the whole thing. Look at this." He showed his parents the screen. The fake evidence they planted makes it look like Dad personally authorized data transfers to offshore accounts. But the timestamps don't match up with Dad's actual computer usage logs. Robert's phone rang again, and this time he answered it. On speaker. "Hello, David." David Chen, the company's chief technology officer and Robert's longtime friend, sounded stressed. "Robert, we have a problem. I just got off a call with 3 of our biggest clients. Somehow word has leaked about a potential security breach. They're threatening to terminate their contracts immediately." Tyler felt his stomach drop. The news was spreading faster than they'd anticipated. "How did they find out?" Robert asked. "We haven't made any official announcements." "I don't know, but someone is feeding them information. They knew specific details about compromised data that we haven't even verified yet." "Robert, this feels coordinated." Linda grabbed Robert's arm. "Coordinated how?" David's voice came through the speaker. "Like someone wanted the clients to find out before we had a chance to investigate and contain the situation. Robert, I think we need to consider the possibility that this attack is coming from inside the company." Tyler leaned forward from the back seat. "Mr. Chen, this is Tyler. I've been analyzing the breach data all day. The person behind this had to have administrative access to our systems. They knew exactly which files to target and how to avoid our security protocols." "Tyler's right," David said. "I've been thinking about it all afternoon. The level of access required for this kind of operation. It's not something an outsider could achieve, even with stolen credentials." Robert pulled into their driveway and turned off the engine but left the phone call connected. "David, I need you to think carefully. Who has the kind of access that would be needed for this?" There was a long pause before David answered. "Robert, you're not going to like this, but the administrative access required, It would have to be someone at the board level or in senior management. Someone with the authority to modify user accounts and access financial systems. Tyler was busy typing on his laptop, cross-referencing data while his parents talked. Suddenly, he froze. "Dad, I think I found something else. Look at this pattern of file access." He showed his father the screen, pointing to specific entries in the log files. "See these timestamps? Someone was accessing the system during the board meeting last month when you presented the quarterly financials. But according to your calendar, all the senior staff were supposed to be in that meeting." Linda looked confused. "What does that mean?" "It means someone was supposed to be in the meeting with Dad, but they were actually logged into the system stealing files instead," Tyler explained. "And look at what they accessed. It was the client database and the financial projections you were presenting to the board." Robert's face darkened as he processed this information. "David, are you still there?" "I'm here." "Robert, what Tyler just described, that's insider trading information. Whoever accessed those files during the board meeting could have used that information to manipulate stock prices or sell information to competitors." Tyler continued scrolling through the data, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "There's more, Dad. The person who accessed the files during your meeting also modified the security logs to hide their activity. But they made a mistake. They forgot to alter the backup logs that automatically sync to the offsite servers." Robert got out of the car and started pacing around the driveway, his phone still connected to David. "This is bigger than just a data breach. Someone is trying to destroy the company from the inside." "Robert," David's voice was barely above a whisper, "I need to tell you something. This afternoon, after news of the breach started spreading, I got a call from Harrison Industries. They offered to buy TechGuard's assets at 30% below market value. They said they knew about our financial difficulties and wanted to help." Tyler looked up sharply from his laptop. "Harrison Industries? Aren't they our biggest competitor?" "Exactly," Robert said. "David, how would Harrison know about financial difficulties that don't actually exist unless someone was feeding them inside information?" Linda was putting the pieces together. "So someone inside our company has been stealing information and selling it to our competitors, and now they're trying to buy the company at a discount after destroying its reputation." Tyler found another piece of the puzzle. "Mom, it's worse than that. Look at this." He turned his laptop screen toward his parents. "The offshore accounts where the stolen data was sent, I traced them back through several proxy servers. They're registered to shell companies that are owned by Harrison Industries." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Robert's phone buzzing with yet another call. This time it was from James Mitchell, the chairman of TechGuard's board of directors. "Robert, I need to see you first thing in the morning," James said without any greeting. "We've got clients threatening lawsuits, investors pulling out, and now the SEC is asking questions about unusual trading activity in our stock. This situation is completely out of control." Tyler was still working on his laptop, and suddenly, his eyes went wide. "Dad, you need to see this right now." He showed his father a series of stock transactions from the past week. "Someone has been short-selling TechGuard stock. They've been betting that our stock price would crash, and they did it right before the news about the breach started spreading." David's voice came through the phone speaker. "Robert, who would have known early enough to place those bets?" Tyler answered before his father could speak. "Someone who knew the breach would be discovered and made public. Someone who planned the whole thing." Robert looked at the evidence his son had uncovered and his face went pale. The insider trading, the convenient buyout offer from Harrison Industries, the perfectly timed stock manipulation. This isn't just corporate espionage. This is a hostile takeover disguised as a security breach. Linda grabbed her husband's arm. "Robert, if someone is willing to go this far to destroy the company, what are they willing to do to protect their plan? Maybe we should call the police." Tyler was still typing, but now his expression had changed from concentration to fear. "Dad, I think Mom's right. I just found something else in the logs. Someone has been monitoring our home internet connection. They know I discovered the breach and they know we're putting the pieces together." Robert ended the call with David and looked at his family. "Pack some bags. We're not staying here tonight. If Tyler's right and someone is monitoring our communications, then we need to assume they know everything we've discussed. As they hurried toward the house, Tyler's laptop chimed with a new message. The email was from an anonymous sender, and it contained just one line: "Stop investigating or face the consequences." Tyler showed the message to his parents, and Linda immediately started toward the house to pack their belongings. But Robert stopped her. "Wait," he said, studying Tyler's laptop screen. "Tyler, check the metadata on that email. Where did it come from?" Tyler's fingers flew across the keyboard, tracing the email's origin. After a few minutes, he looked up at his father with fear in his eyes. "Dad, this email was sent from inside TechGuard's office building. Whoever sent this threat is someone we work with every day." Tyler's heart was pounding as he stared at the threatening email on his laptop screen. The fact that it came from inside his father's own company made everything feel 10 times more dangerous. Robert quickly ushered his family into the house, constantly looking over his shoulder as if expecting someone to jump out from behind the trees. "We need to move fast," Robert said, his voice tight with worry. "Linda, pack a bag with essentials for all of us. Tyler, save all that evidence to multiple drives and make sure you have backup copies of everything." Linda was already heading upstairs, but Tyler could see her hands shaking as she grabbed the banister. This wasn't the kind of situation their comfortable suburban family was used to dealing with. Tyler felt responsible for putting them all in danger, but he knew that discovering the truth was the only way to protect his father from going to prison for crimes he didn't commit. Tyler worked quickly on his laptop, copying files to 3 different USB drives and uploading encrypted backups to a secure cloud server his father didn't know about. As he worked, he kept monitoring the network traffic from their home internet connection. What he saw made his blood run cold. "Dad," Tyler called out, trying to keep his voice calm. "Someone is actively monitoring our internet right now. They can see everything we're doing online." Robert cursed under his breath. "How is that possible? We have a secure home network." Tyler's fingers flew across the keyboard as he traced the intrusion. "They're using the same sophisticated methods they used to hack the company. Dad, whoever is behind this has been planning it for a long time. They've probably been watching our family for weeks, maybe months." Linda came back downstairs with a small suitcase, her face pale but determined. "Where are we going to go? If they're monitoring our communications, won't they know wherever we try to hide?" Robert was about to answer when Tyler's laptop made an urgent beeping sound. Tyler looked at the screen and felt his stomach drop. "Dad, we need to leave right now. Someone just remotely accessed our home security system. They can see inside our house through the cameras." The family grabbed their bags and rushed toward the garage. Robert's hands were shaking as he started the car, and Tyler noticed his father kept checking the rearview mirrors even before they left the driveway. "Where are we going?" Linda asked as they pulled out onto the street. "To my brother's house. Across town," Robert replied. "He's not connected to the business, so hopefully they won't think to look for us there." Tyler was in the back seat with his laptop, still monitoring the situation. He'd managed to set up a secure connection that would hide their location, but he could see that someone was actively trying to track their movements. "Dad, they're using the GPS in our phones to follow us. We should probably turn them off." "Good thinking," Robert said, powering down his phone. Linda did the same, but Tyler kept his laptop running. He needed to stay connected to keep monitoring the situation, and he'd configured it to hide their location through multiple proxy servers. They drove in tense silence for about 10 minutes, taking a winding route through residential neighborhoods to avoid main roads. Tyler was so focused on his computer screen that he almost didn't notice the black sedan that had been maintaining the same distance behind them for the past several blocks. "Dad," Tyler said carefully, "don't look back, but I think we're being followed." Robert's knuckles went white on the steering wheel. He made a sudden turn into a shopping center parking lot and drove slowly between the parked cars. The black sedan followed them into the lot, confirming Tyler's suspicions. "What do we do now?" Linda whispered. Robert thought for a moment, then suddenly accelerated toward the exit on the far side of the parking lot. The sedan immediately sped up to follow them, and Tyler could see that there were at least 2 people inside the vehicle. "Tyler, are you still connected to the internet?" Robert asked. "Yes, why?" Can you send that evidence to someone right now? Someone who can help us even if something happens to us? Tyler's mind raced. Who could they trust with this information? Most of his father's business contacts might be compromised, and they didn't know how deep the conspiracy went. Then Tyler remembered his computer science teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, who had connections with law enforcement through his previous job in digital forensics. I can send it to my teacher, Tyler said. He used to work with the FBI on cybercrime cases. Do it now, Robert said, making another sharp turn. The sedan was still following them, and now Tyler could see a second vehicle, a dark SUV, had joined the pursuit. Tyler quickly composed an email with all the evidence attached, explaining the Yao situation in simple terms. As he hit send, he noticed something alarming on his network monitoring software. Dad, they're not just following us physically. Someone is trying to hack into my laptop right now, probably to delete the evidence. The SUV had moved ahead of them and was now trying to block their path while the sedan closed in from behind. Robert was running out of options, and Tyler could see the panic in his parents' faces. There's something else I need to tell you, Tyler said, his voice shaking. While I was investigating the hack, I found financial records showing that someone has been embezzling money from the company for years. The security breach was just meant to cover up the theft by making it look like outside hackers did everything. Linda turned around to look at her son. How much money are we talking about? Over $2 million, Tyler replied. And the records show that the money was taken by someone with access to the company's executive accounts. Robert was trying to navigate through traffic while being pursued by two vehicles, but Tyler could see his father processing this new information. Tyler, do you know who has that level of access? Before Tyler could answer, the SUV suddenly accelerated and moved directly in front of their car, forcing Robert to slam on the brakes. The sedan immediately pulled up alongside them, and Tyler could see the driver gesturing for them to pull over. They want us to stop, Linda said, her voice barely above a whisper. Robert looked around frantically. They were on a busy street with traffic on both sides, and the two vehicles had effectively trapped them. Tyler could see that his laptop was still under attack from hackers trying to delete his evidence, and he realized that stopping the car would probably mean losing all proof of the conspiracy. Tyler, Robert said urgently, if they get us, that evidence is the only thing that can prove my innocence. You need to get it to someone who can help no matter what happens to us. Tyler looked at his laptop screen and saw that his email to Mr. Rodriguez had been successfully sent, but the hackers were getting closer to breaking through his security. He had maybe minutes before they wiped all his files. The SUV driver was getting out of his vehicle now, and Tyler could see he was walking toward their car with purpose. Tyler made a split-second decision that would change everything. I have to get out of the car, Tyler said to his parents. If I stay with you, they'll get the laptop and destroy all the evidence. But if I can get away with it, I can make sure the truth comes out. Tyler, no, Linda said. It's too dangerous. But Tyler was already grabbing his backpack with the laptop and the USB drives. The SUV driver was almost at their car, and Tyler could see the sedan driver talking on a phone, probably calling for more backup. I love you both, Tyler said. And before his parents could stop him, he opened the car door and rolled out onto the street. Tyler hit the asphalt hard, his backpack clutched tightly to his chest. He could hear his parents shouting his name, but he forced himself to get up and run toward the nearby woods that bordered the road. Behind him, he heard car doors slamming and people yelling, but Tyler didn't look back. As he disappeared into the trees, Tyler realized he was now completely on his own, carrying the only evidence that could save his father and expose a conspiracy that reached deep into his family's business. The laptop in his backpack contained the truth, but getting it to the right people would be the hardest thing he'd ever done. Tyler's legs burned as he ran through the woods, branches scraping against his face and arms. Behind him, he could hear shouting and the sound of people crashing through the underbrush, but he didn't dare look back. His backpack bounced against his spine with each step, and he said a silent prayer that his laptop hadn't been damaged in the fall from the car. After what felt like hours, but was probably only 10 minutes, Tyler found himself at the edge of a residential neighborhood. He ducked behind a large oak tree and carefully pulled out his phone. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely dial the number. But he managed to call his computer science teacher, Mr. Rodriguez. "Hello?" came the familiar voice. "Mr. Rodriguez, this is Tyler Williams from your advanced programming class. I need your help. My family is in serious danger." There was a pause. "Tyler? What's wrong? You sound terrified." Tyler quickly explained everything. The security breach, the conspiracy, his parents being chased, and the evidence he was carrying. As he talked, he kept watching the tree line for any sign of his pursuers. "Tyler, listen to me carefully, Mr. Rodriguez said when Tyler finished. "I'm going to give you an address. It's a safe house that the FBI uses for situations like this. Can you get there?" Tyler looked around, trying to figure out where he was. "I think so. But Mr. Rodriguez, what if they don't believe me? What if they think I'm just some kid making up stories?" "The evidence you sent me is very compelling," Mr. Rodriguez replied. "I've already forwarded it to Agent Patricia Henderson, who I worked with when I was in digital forensics. She's expecting you." Tyler wrote down the address and started making his way through the neighborhood, staying away from main streets and avoiding any cars that looked suspicious. As he walked, he couldn't stop thinking about his parents. Were they safe? Had the people chasing them hurt them? The guilt of leaving them behind was eating at him, but he knew that protecting the evidence was the only way to help them in the long run. It took Tyler almost an hour to reach the safe house, which turned out to be a normal-looking apartment, building in a quiet part of town. Agent Henderson was waiting for him in the lobby, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes but a serious expression. "Tyler?" she asked as he approached. Tyler nodded, still breathing hard from his journey. "Yes. Ma'am, Mr. Rodriguez said you could help. I've been reviewing the evidence you sent," Agent Henderson said as she led him to an elevator. "What you've uncovered is much bigger than just corporate espionage. This appears to be part of a systematic attack on multiple technology companies." They rode the elevator to the third floor, where Agent Henderson led Tyler into a small apartment that had been converted into a temporary office. There were multiple computers, stacks of documents, and several other FBI agents working at various stations. "Tyler, I need you to walk me through exactly how you discovered this breach," Agent Henderson said, gesturing for him to sit at a computer terminal. Tyler opened his laptop and began showing the agent everything he'd found. As he explained each piece of evidence, he could see the other agents gathering around to listen. What had started as a routine software update had uncovered a conspiracy that went far beyond what Tyler had initially imagined. The sophistication of this operation suggests professional hackers working with inside help, one of the other agents commented. "Tyler, you did excellent work documenting all of this." Agent Henderson was studying the financial records Tyler had found. "These embezzlement patterns match similar cases we've been investigating at other companies. It looks like someone has been using the same methods to steal from multiple businesses, then covering their tracks by making it look like outside cyber attacks." Tyler felt a mixture of pride and fear. He was glad that his detective work was helping, but he was also worried about what this meant for his family. "Agent Henderson, what about my parents, the people who were chasing us? Do you know if my mom and dad are okay?" Agent Henderson picked up her phone and made a quick call. After a brief conversation, she turned back to Tyler with relief on her face. "Your parents are safe. We had units in the area, and they were able to intercept the vehicles that were pursuing your family. Your mother and father are being brought here now." Tyler felt tears of relief forming in his eyes, but Agent Henderson wasn't finished. "Tyler, based on your evidence and what we found when we arrested the people chasing you, we've identified the main suspect behind this conspiracy. It's someone very close to your family's business." Tyler looked up sharply. "Who is it?" "James Mitchell, the chairman of your father's board of directors. He's been embezzling money from TechGuard and several other companies for over 3 years. When your father started getting close to discovering the theft during routine financial reviews, Mitchell decided to frame him for corporate espionage instead." Tyler's jaw dropped. James Mitchell had been like an uncle to him growing up. The man had been at Tyler's birthday parties, family barbecues, and Christmas dinners. "But why would he do something like that?" Another agent answered. "Gambling debts. Mitchell owed over $5 million to some very dangerous people. He's been stealing from companies and selling their information to competitors to pay off his debts. When that wasn't enough, he partnered with Harrison Industries to orchestrate hostile takeovers. Agent Henderson showed Tyler a chart on her computer screen. Your discovery broke open a case we've been working on for months. Mitchell and his associates have been targeting at least 12 different technology companies. They would steal information, manipulate stock prices, and then buy the companies at reduced values. Tyler was trying to process all of this information when he heard familiar voices in the hallway outside. The door opened, and his parents rushed in, immediately wrapping him in the biggest hug of his life. "Tyler, thank God you're safe," Linda said, tears streaming down her face. "When you jumped out of that car, I thought we might never see you again." Robert looked at his son with a mixture of pride and amazement. "Son, Agent Henderson has been telling us what you accomplished. You didn't just save our company. You helped expose a criminal organization that was hurting lots of families." Over the next few hours, Tyler worked with the FBI agents to provide additional details about the hack and help them understand the technical aspects of Mitchell's operation. It turned out that Mitchell had been using his position on multiple company boards to gather inside information and coordinate attacks with Harrison Industries. The evidence Tyler documented will be crucial in prosecuting this case, Agent Henderson explained to Robert and Linda. Without his detailed forensic work, Mitchell might have succeeded in framing your husband. As the evening wore on, more arrests were made. Several employees at Harrison Industries were taken into custody, along with the hackers who had been carrying out the actual cyber attacks. The people who had been chasing Tyler's family turned out to be private investigators hired by Mitchell to intimidate the Williams family into staying quiet. 3 days later, Tyler found himself back at school, trying to return to normal life. The story had made national news, and Tyler was being called a hero by cybersecurity experts across the country. But what mattered most to him was that his father's name had been cleared, and their family was safe. TechGuard Solutions not only survived the scandal but actually grew stronger. Companies began hiring them specifically because of their reputation for honesty and their advanced security detection methods. The investors who had initially fled came back with even larger offers, impressed by the company's integrity during the crisis. Tyler received recognition from the FBI for his contribution to the investigation, and several universities offered him early admission to their cybersecurity programs. But perhaps the best reward was the knowledge that his quick thinking and technical skills had protected not just his own family, but potentially dozens of other families who might have been victimized by Mitchell's conspiracy. Looking back on those terrifying few days, Tyler realized that sometimes doing the right thing meant taking risks and making difficult choices. His decision to investigate those suspicious log files had changed everything, proving that even a 16-year-old with a laptop could make a difference in the fight against corporate crime.